Welcome to today's Coffee and Cloud session. In the session today, we're going to talk about reimagining the future of ALM in SAP. My name is Becky Weatherall and I'm a Senior Manager within the ADM Product Management team. I'm also joined here today with Jonathan Sprake, who is one of our solution consultants. So the first thing we're going to talk about is just the dilemma in new business and the industry demands, and really how this plays into what it is you're focusing on with some of the SAP transformations and how we support SAP. Implementation, upgrades, changes to any complex system really do impact considerations within your business. We have to take consideration in the time to market, how you release applications faster without compromising on the quality and the budget, taking into account any regulatory or compliance considerations, e-signature and different aspects of what it is that you need within your organisation. The complexity of an SAP system really does bring in additional challenges around the tools that you need to deliver the data, and really that overarching need for the complexity of how it is that you understand the insights and the challenges and what you're focused on. And all of this is really about making sure that you're able to achieve the business to execution alignment, deliver in the appropriate time to meet your customers' needs, and really take those key points into consideration. Now, why open text for SAP solutions? Open text obviously bought the Micro Focus technologies and historically therefore back to the HP and Mercury. So there's a really long history there of how our technologies support applications such as SAP. Now, the key things into what it is that we're providing within the ADM toolset is really about how we integrate into the SAP technologies at the key areas of the SAP deployment lifecycle. It's about how we're really driving the innovation to really ensure that we're able to support the complexities of SAP and really enable you to deliver more robust and faster with the introduction of areas such as codeless AI. It's about that need to deliver the complete coverage. So not only is it about SAP, but it's about that wider SAP technology base that you have within your organisation. And it's about the volume of customers that obviously needing to support, and really about the fact that we deliver solutions not only from a cloud point of view, but also an on-prem. So it's about having that adaptability to really support the development methodologies and approaches throughout the organisation. And it really is about, with all of this that we bring, it's about reducing the complexity in the tools that you have within your organisation and really ensuring that you can consolidate and have tooling that supports across the board. All of this with the fact that it's integrated into your solutions and really ensures the maximum flow of information across disparate tools and synchronization. Now, again, just back to one of the points that I mentioned about the ecosystem. SAP doesn't exist in its own right, in its own ecosystem. The key thing here is SAP is just one part of the far wider technologies that you will have end to end in your organization. And the key need here is to ensure that you have the solutions that not only then support the SAP testing needs, but any other applications you have end to end in your organization, whether they're connected to SAP or whether they're actually running independently. So having the tool set to really support that entire tool chain and have one solution that can really support end to end. Now, just very briefly into some of what we're doing. And I think a lot of the hot topics out there is around the AI evolution. And I think one of the key things to say here is the open text technologies and our history. It's not just something that we've jumped on with the introduction of Gen AI. We've been into this AI evolution for many, many years, over 10 years, from the early points where we've done the product data to create loads and tests with the power object detection, OCR, etc., remote services, multi-models. All of this has been there for a vast volume of time, through to obviously our products having the ability to suggest test coverage for features, end time prediction, and areas like this, through to where we are today with our solutions such as Aviator that sit on top of our solutions, which really bring those Gen AI capabilities into it. And we have that from manual to codeless, our Smart Verifier, Gen AI services, one analysis, and different aspects of this. And some of this, obviously, we can go through in more detailed sessions later on. But really to bring to the picture here is AI evolution is part of what we are, and it really is about driving that intelligence into our tooling. Now, specifically, let's just briefly look at the ADM integrations that we have into the SAP solutions. And many of these we've had, for many, many years. A lot of organizations out there will still be using SAP Solution Manager. So the key aspect here is with what you're using from Solution Manager point of view, not only do we integrate from a UFT point of view, but we also are able from a Solution Manager point of view to bring across the business process hierarchy, ITSM instance, the BPCA information. All of this then we can bring through into our solutions, whether that be ALM, Octane or Value Edge. So that integration just from a Solution Manager point, not only from a process, but also from an automation point of view. On top of that, we have our integrations with SAP Signavio. So Signavio being a really core part of what people are looking at within the SAP RISE program about supporting those business process models. So that ability to bring that through into our solutions. And one of the new areas that we've worked on with our Value Edge functional test solution is bringing our ability to work with SAP Cloud ALM. And that ability for the Value Edge functional test cloud automation tool being able to be executed and being able to be the automation tool into SAP Cloud ALM. So all of this then really across our solutions helps you understand where you are, what missing tests. It's about driving the improvements and reducing the testing time. It's about reuse and really ensuring that you reduce the maintenance efforts for the software that you're delivering. So it's about having the right tools in place to really support end-to-end across there. And that's really then looking at how we support your organization's needs. Now, predominantly, we've been talking about how ADM supports the SAP solutions, but just touching upon into this as well is not only do we have the ADM tool sets from lifecycle management, functional automation, performance, and our integrations through to SAP, but on top of this, we have our security tools from Fortify through to our operational tools with OpsBridge, etc., that sit within our ITOM portfolio. So when you look at how we as an organisation can support, not only look at the tools we bring in from an ADM point of view, but also the wider capabilities from ITOM and our wider content business. Now, again, earlier in one of the slides, we mentioned about some of the considerations. Now, the slide that I've got here, where we talk about some of the challenges, now we talk about these in the context of how they're faced in the SAP modernisation. But these considerations on the level of risk that you're going to take, how much time you have to apply, and the cost that you're going to put in, really is an age-old argument that's existed throughout the phases of software development. And it's about making sure that you're able to have the right information to make the decisions about the cost of quality. The tooling that we provide from that management capability helps give you that insight into your risk, the time, and obviously the cost on that aspect. Now we're going to talk about Value Edge and really how our AI-powered platform really provides that end-to-end support and how this provides a set of acceleration modules that really can then map through to how it is we can support SAP. Our Value Edge solution provides a level of insight across that plan, build, test, deliver and run aspect, with again the modules that then sit beneath that to support all of the core aspects that you need to deliver. All of that being then a level of services and the strong integrations of what we then provide to support the solutions. Now the value edge, as you can see, modules and the insights and the different process go through directly can be mapped then through to how we support the SAP Activate methodology and process. We can see here on this slide how when we look at those different phases through the SAP Activate process, how that can ultimately then map onto the different modules and the different aspects we have of our value edge solution. We can see just as an example here where SAP Signavio would sit in, where Solution Manager, ultimately Cloud ALM, and again later on you can again see where Signavio comes back in. And that's just as an example. But the key thing is how our solutions map and support the processes that are needed from that SAP point of view. Again, when we look at and we talked about that complex ecosystem that we have and how SAP is just one tool in your far wider ecosystem and how then we can support. But also on top of that, we understand the need for our solutions to be open. And this is really critical in our platform to ensure then that we're able to provide you with the tooling that supports your existing and future tool chains. It's about supporting the API, CI, agile management tools, and it's about necessarily having the integrations to give the collaborative and they ensure that you're able to gain greater visibility across the SDLC. Now, here we have just a bit more of a detail around the value edge process architecture. And I've layered onto this again how this applies from an SAP testing point. At the top, again, we can see, for example, the SAP Activate methodology from discover through to run. At the bottom, we see some of the core components that are represented and how this can then play into the SAP domain. You can see early on from that plan solution documentation point where we can handle and work with Solution Manager, where we can take inputs from Signavio. We move through then into the test automation, whether manual or automated, performance and security. You can see under here where we bring in the agile management, quality, insight and release, and how this ultimately then hooks into the model-based testing. We look at the functional test element where Value Edge can integrate with SAP Cloud ALM, through to the performance and even the security from the Fortify on demand. And we see the touch points then of where information can flow and how this really supports that process that needs to be considered. Now, we're talking about value edge, but one of the other considerations is there may be many of you that also have investment and assets included within our ALM solutions. And one of the key things in how we're able to drive things forward is also about giving the ability to leverage your existing investments that you may have in UFT, BPT, etc., and how you can then give that visibility through into the solutions moving forward. So it's about then really driving some of that transition forward to really the modern approach to testing. We've got here an example, and all of this again we can look at driving additional sessions and working with yourselves to actually give you better insight into what each of the value edge acceleration modules brings to you as an organization, and about how this can then support you and your organization's needs across the different quality and test aspects. We can see here just visually how this gives you that insight and the analytics to really help drive and give you that understanding of where you are, the quality, the metrics and the intelligence to give you that ability to report through to your management and have that control of your projects and your initiatives. And all of these being dashboards, flexibility and customization to give you the information that you need. Looking into one of those areas and one of those dashboards in a bit more detail, we can just see here that we're able to give you the insight that is flexible and suits your organization's needs. You can see the level of open defects by application module. We've got a heat map to give you that insight against your requirements, your backlog, as to where are the areas of consideration, where's the areas of risk that you need to be focusing on. You can look at how you're moving from manual through to automated as you're really driving your automation strategy, and again, where you are in your release processes. So all of this is about giving you that insight to drive the improvements and the control within your projects. Now, touching again upon another area that's very key to organizations, understanding the automation ROI for your organization. So measuring the effectiveness of your automation efforts. And these are some actual screenshots from within the tool. So this isn't just a mock-up, but it's about our tooling giving you those insights to really drive that quality. So understanding the defect detection by automation, defect with high detection time, giving you that information to really drive and understand the level of automation instability and really give you that insight. So it's all about that visibility and driving those improvements. Now, there's been many challenges or many differences in how things move forward. A new wave of testing is possible with our technologies. Historically, a lot of people did more of the traditional automation. Now, moving forward, and where organizations now are, is about that need for cloud and AI-based test automation. So we give the ability for you to have that cloud execution, the flexibility of codeless by choice, so the ease of automation creation, the ability to drive from a model-based testing point of view, and then the flexibility in the intelligent scripting and how it is that you're deploying your solutions. Now, just touching upon the concept of the model-based testing, and again, in the SAP context, SAP Signavio being a big driver of where organizations are starting to look at their business processes. Now, with that and with the business process flows, whether it be from a process mining and understanding the different processes that sit within your SAP system, how you take that information and you're able to take that and drive that through into our solutions. So we can take that information from Signavio, we can then take that into our model-based testing solution that sits within Value Edge to really map out then what are your different process flows. And ultimately, this is about then taking that information to reusing it to accelerate your time then to define your processes and through into automating the SAP tests. And we can see here just a bit more of an example where we have that business process model. We can see how that business process model has driven a number of test paths through in our solutions, which then gives you that ability to apply, whether it be data sets, parameters, but you can then start making decisions on the happy path through your test, prioritizing what it is you're focusing on, and that being used then from a manual point of view or even an automated point of view in your testing. So again, take Signavio, business process flows through into our solutions, ultimately to manual or automated testing. So now just going to hand over to Jonathan, who's going to talk a bit more about our AI-powered functional testing.
Thanks, Becky. So our functional testing portfolio you may know of as Unified Functional Testing, or UFT, and within that portfolio there are a number of products. You can see here, UFT1 is the core product that supports automation of over 200 different technologies, of course, SAP, web, mobile, APIs, as well as legacy and desktop applications. UFT Developer, as the name suggests, is aimed at developers so that they can work in their own environment, but it uses some of the same principles of object definition and object libraries as the main UFT1 product. Within Value Edge, as Becky has already mentioned and shown you briefly, we have functional testing capability that can be tied into the model-based testing that we've just looked at. You can also create standalone tests, and that can be with codeless tests, or you can link your UFT1 test cases. And finally, we have the digital lab, which allows you to test against mobile devices or against emulators. And you can also manage your apps within that platform as well. So you can upload your mobile apps, maintain the different versions, and then when you come to run a test, choose the type of device, the version of app, and that's where your test will run. So that's a general overview of the UFT family. When it comes to different personas that the tools are aimed at, you have your traditional test automation specialist who would use UFT1, and that has a codeless view, but also an expert view that allows you to jump into the script so that you can make modifications that can be done more quickly from that scripted view. For developers, there's a full coded solution in UFT Developer, so they work in their IDE with whatever language they want to. And as I said, it uses the same principles for object definition and libraries that we have in UFT1. And then at the other end of the scale, shifting right to subject matter experts. These are users who may be non-technical. We have the codeless capability within Value Edge Functional Test so that they can write test cases in normal language rather than in any tool as such. So Becky's mentioned some of our AI capabilities just to cover what's within the UFT family as regards to AI. So we have computer vision and neural networks that help you to identify objects and interact with them the way a human would. So there's no object definition. We're not using human terms for object definition. We're working on a higher level. And for instance, you take a shopping cart icon. The model has been shown lots of shopping cart icons. So when you say click on the shopping cart, it will look at the screen, find the icon that closely represents a shopping cart, and then it will be able to interact with it. So those capabilities are throughout the product set. And additionally, in the Value Edge Functional Test, we have the codeless design, which will use natural language so that you can write your test cases in simple English. And there's also a way to record this against the application, which will produce this codeless test case design. So how does this relate to SAP? So within Value Edge, as we've said, we've got model-based testing, you've got codeless tests, and you can also link your UFT test cases. And all of this can then be linked back to SAP via Cloud ALM. So you might be storing your processes and requirements in Cloud ALM and using this moving forwards to manage your testing. So you can create an automated test in SAP Cloud ALM, and that will create a test case in Value Edge, which you can then go and automate with codeless, for instance, verify against the application, and that will then appear as a test case in Cloud ALM that you can then execute. So I've got a little video here to show you that process in action. So we're starting off here in Cloud ALM, and we're creating a test case. We've chosen automated, and it's defaulted there to the Value Edge Functional Test platform. And this is for an app payment. And we're going to choose the process that this covers. So there's our process and the region we want to run it against. So we've saved that, and it's created a test case, and we can access that test case from the link here, and that will take us into Value Edge. And from here, we can launch the application, and in this case, it's SAP Fiori, and we're choosing property-based identification for this particular one, but you saw there was an option there for AI identification as well. And if I can pause it at the right point here, you can see the test case that's created in English language effectively. So this is the codeless design for Value Edge Functional Test. So let me click off play again. So this is now running through that test case just to verify that it works. And once we've done that, we can go back into SAP and we can flag that as being prepared and ready to execute. So that was successful. So we can now save that and close the window. We now flag it as prepared. So at a later date, someone could come in and run that test case from within Cloud ALM. And here you can see we're kicking that off. And whilst it's running, we will be able to open up Value Edge and see the execution in progress. So this will take us to the suite run and the automation run that's been created automatically. You can see a job number there, and then we've got the run. And if we go to the functional test section and look at execution, we can see what's in progress, completed, and if we time skip here, you'll see that's been executed, it's finished. We can now go back to SAP Cloud ALM, and if someone at a later date wants to see the results, they've got a link that will take them to Value Edge, and they can then download the full run report along with screenshots, evidence of those successful interactions with the application. So that's a brief demo of Value Edge functional test and how that integrates with Cloud ALM. One other product that relates to this would be service virtualization. I'm sure you're aware of what service virtualization is on a conceptual level. It allows you to virtualize components in your test environments that maybe are dependencies that prevent you from testing your application. So back-end APIs, external calls, etc. So this can help you to shift left, increase efficiency, improve quality, and speed up your releases by allowing you to test earlier in the lifecycle. So as this relates to SAP, you're not just testing an individual system, you've got lots of dependent systems, maybe some third-party systems, and you can choose where to virtualize these various systems using service virtualization. And this could be dependent on what you have available in your test environments or what can scale in your test environments. Possibly third-party instances like Salesforce you might have to pay for. So if you can virtualize it, you can avoid that cost. And some may just not have a test system available for you. So service virtualization can help you to test earlier in the life cycle and avoid some of the costs that could be associated with standing up all of this infrastructure or paying for test harnesses from third parties. So that's just a brief dive into the products. Let me hand back to Becky to finish up.
Thank you for that. So now we're just going to briefly talk about how our professional service can also bring together technology, people and processes to really ensure your success within your organisation. Our professional services, has a high volume of certified consultants. We've got many different delivery centres and really all the references and the support there to really ensure that we can scale and we can provide a partner to you as an organisation you can trust and rely on. So really key that, we're there to also support you in that journey. So our professional support services can really support you in many areas, from the optimization services to really supporting any migration upgrades, the advisory, so working with you from a strategy, a value discovery, and really any of those different aspects, through to providing accelerators and supporting the solution designs and the actual implementation of your projects. We work really across all of the areas from functional performance and virtualization testing services. So please do reach out to us for how we can actually work and support you. Now, at this point, I'd like to just open up and really move forward to any questions, and really thank you for your participation during this session. Hi, so we've got a number of questions that have come in, which would be great to obviously answer. So one of the first questions that we've had that's come in is, how does service virtualization work? And does it match request with response? So Jonathan, I think this is a good one really to hand across to yourself.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's a great question. Service virtualization does do request and response pair matching, but it does also much more than that. It has a rules engine, and you can create rules based on anything to do with the input. You can generate responses, so you can code responses, but you can also do some fairly complex matching with a hierarchical set of rules. So it's not just request and response pairs, it's much more capable than that. So yeah,
Brilliant.
good question.
Thank you. And just in line with one of the questions we've got, and yes, we will be sharing this deck with you and the recording of this session with you to follow up on. And again, if you've got any questions that you think of after today's session, then please do reach out to us. One other question that we've got time for is, what AI capabilities do our products have? And obviously with AI being such a key thing, you know, it's a very relevant question. So again, Jonathan, I'm just going to hand that one to yourself.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, there's lots of AI capabilities. You saw a slide that Becky presented in the session there that showed you a lot of different capabilities based around large language models, machine learning, and more recently, generative AI. You've got the recognition type of AI within the testing tools. Functional testing tools can look at an application from that human perspective, which makes creating those test cases easier and in a more understandable, kind of English language. We've had different types of AI within the tools for many years, actually. So some of the machine learning in, Value Edge and Octane can look at the history of events, defects, for instance, and their resolution. If you're mapping to code, you can then identify areas of the code that might have problems based on that previous experience. Things like looking at defects from a pipeline and then grouping them by the root cause. That uses some machine learning. But obviously more recently, generative AI is the hot topic, and we've got lots of generative AI capabilities within the tools. Things like generating test cases from requirements, or even generating a marketing summary from a feature documentation, or identifying missing aspects of an application. And things like generating dashboards from a prompt rather than having to go through and configure all the different settings. So yeah, there's lots of different AI capabilities within the tools.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So thanks for that. And it's a very comprehensive area of what we can cover, as you can sort of tell. So please do reach out to us if there's specific areas for us to go into in more detail. So we've reached the end of the time. So again, we'd like to thank everybody for attending today's session, and we look forward to the opportunities of following up with you and really going through any of these areas in more detail. Thank you.
Thanks all. Bye.